Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Practically an Artist. This is a podcast about people that work in the creative industry and who are creative day in and day out for their job, and the balance that strikes in your life, and just the different ways that people get through having your 9 to 5 be sometimes what your passion is. So for this first episode, I'm talking to my little brother, Cobi. And Cobi has a pretty interesting story about how he came around to being in the film world, which is also where I'm at. But that's not where he started out. He had a little bit of a roundabout path. And so we talk a little bit about that, a little bit about comparison culture, and how YouTube has started to kind of shape how people coming up in the creative industry view themselves and view their work. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into that conversation with Cobi. All right. Well, welcome, Cobi. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So you want to just take a second and kind of describe to the people what you do and what would qualify you as a air quotes artist?
Yes, I am a video producer. That's a pretty loose title. I make videos. Is essentially, that's just as basic as it gets. So I think
say filmmaker if you want to sound more legit.
Yeah, I never want to say the word film. It's like the three different descriptions of videos, like film, picture, or video. Film is up there in the pretentious department, but
it's up there.
But I create things, so therefore, I think that would put me as a quote unquote artist
slash video creator slash content creator.
Yeah, slash
corporate content creator.
Yeah, it is corporate content. And video producer, really, that, like I was saying, that title doesn't really describe what I do. I know. As a video producer for a church, like you're an editor, you're a director, you're a set designer, you're a grip, lighting specialist, you
have to wear a lot of hats,
audio engineer, video producer is the main one, I guess. But even that, I would say I do other things more. But yeah, I think that's what would qualify me to be called an artist. Okay,
so I kind of wanted to take a second to dive into one question I had for you. Is you've had a very roundabout path to doing video full time, and I think we both have a similar issue. It might be genetic, that we wear a lot of hats, and sometimes to our own detriment. And I'd just be curious to say what you think about, you started out in music, and then music and business, and then playing around at a marketing agency kind of got you into video. So how do you feel like the current ecosystem of your job forces you to wear a lot of hats, but also do you feel like sometimes being a jack of all trades and a master of none can be a little bit of a curse?
Yeah. Obviously, you experience the same thing. I always felt really, or I feel it now, very jealous of your track and your passion for video early on. Because I remember, obviously, we've been making videos ever since we were little. But it always kind of felt like you knew what you wanted to do. And I was always kind of like, should I know? Because I feel like Seth knows. And I definitely don't know. And so, yeah, as you described, roundabout ways is a good way to say it. There's a good TED Talks on it, actually. I can't remember the woman who speaks on it. But I think a lot of it is culturally inflicted feelings towards switching careers constantly.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's something our generation struggles with in general, I think. I think the stats now say that you're going to switch careers up to 7 times. And that's not even just jobs, that's careers by the time that we're at retirement age. So
yeah,
it's definitely not something unique, but I think it's something that we all struggle with a little bit on some level.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, I mean, I'd be curious to hear your take on it, but when I like from outside looking in, it seems as though you kind of knew what you wanted to do. Like going forward, high school to college, out of college into career. And not saying that that's all you've done, but it seemed like that was like your main passion.
No, I get that. And I also can understand how from the outside is like, oh, Seth likes video and he does video. But I don't know. I think I've had that in my own different way where video was a hobby and coding felt like a more straight, surefire way to making more money and always being employed.
Yeah.
And so making that shift was a little bit of a leap for me. And I think I definitely had and to an extent still have a pretty bad inferiority complex or an imposter syndrome where my first day in like visual aesthetics 101, first week of college, I show up and there's kids that were in film school in high school. They went to like some art school in, LA somewhere. And they, already knew all the stuff that I didn't know, even simple stuff like, they knew what 3-point lighting was and what jib meant and things like that. It's like I'm sitting there and I'm this like dopey, like wearing Scene Kid shirts, Midwestern kid who like just made dumb parody videos of other people's parody videos with his friends on the weekends. And by some divine accident ended up being accepted into a film program that was competitive, which I still don't entirely understand. I must have had a decent enough eye for aesthetics, but I found my old film application reel the other day buried in my Vimeo archives, and it is rough stuff. Lots of interlacing. But I don't know. I think I am more so almost even coming to that crisis later in my career, and I wish I maybe would have had it earlier, where I'm like, okay, I got video down. I can do video. I can pretty much imitate any style that I need to and get the job done. And sometimes that's fulfilling and sometimes that's not. And so I'm starting to get a little bit of that jack of all trades syndrome back, where I find myself dabbling in a lot of other things. So yeah, I mean, I think I feel it too, where I'm like, man, am I going to do this forever? Is this something that I love? I don't feel like, I think sometimes watching all these YouTube filmmakers like Craig Adams or Matt Diavella, where they're filmmakers who seem to just like love it so much, and I really love it, but I think I've lost a little bit of that love for it because maybe it's because I'm not doing it the way I did when I was 16.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you feel about that I'd be curious how you feel about that going into doing corporate on a day-to-day basis versus just making stuff for fun. Because that's pretty much the only experience. You went on some freelance shoots with me, but you pretty much just made YouTube stuff with your friends or for yourself or for class before you started your internship at the church, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, like hearing you talk about like the imposter syndrome, like I just feel like there's so many levels to that. Cause like, I feel like maximum level imposter, didn't go to film school. Like I feel like an imposter talking to you about video most of the time. And so it's funny to hear you talk about how you felt like an imposter. And I'm sure those kids felt like they were imposters, like, wherever they went in on their first, step into the video world. But yeah, it's funny. There's always somebody else that has more experience, and is always more, I don't know, more passionate about the project than you, it seems like.
Or they're like, it's very easy in the YouTube, Vimeo, hype reel world to compare yourself constantly and get caught in the culture of comparison.
Oh yeah.
There's always somebody who's going to shoot better than you. And there's always somebody who has 10% more dedication than you and spends more time on the weekends than you do. And I think hustle culture has influenced that a little bit too, to where it's like you need to be sleeping 3 hours a night and constantly working on your craft to be happy. And I think I've found, for me at least, that that's not what makes me happy.
Yeah.
I like having time to like play board games with my friends, or just take the night off and hang out with my wife. Like, I don't need to be constantly filmmaking. But for some people, I feel like that scratches their itch. And so maybe I'm just not cut out for YouTube. I'm cut out for more, I don't know, day-to-day 9 to 5 production job. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting little conundrum. Do you feel like, I don't know, I have lots of opinions about YouTube and the whole YouTube filmmaker culture, but I think, do you buy into the whole Gary Vee culture of work, 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 and you'll be better than everybody else? Or do you think that's not for everybody?
Man, I don't think it's for everybody, and I definitely think that you're seeing it with like a lot of. I mean, you're even seeing it with YouTubers like Peter McKinnon. Like, he just hired somebody because he's like, this just isn't sustainable. Like,
Yeah.
like Neistat, like it wasn't sustainable.
Now, yeah, he's quit multiple times now.
Yeah, like, and there's a reason that he's quitting, and I don't think maybe he has said, I don't know. I don't watch enough Neistat to know recently.
Yeah,
but,
I burn out on the Neistat train, but
yeah, but I think he's even said like there's like a reason that he quit, like that he quits that, like day-to-day grind like that. Although, I mean, he does do it for 400 odd days or however many it was. Like, that's insane. But still, I think there's just a limit to that, and I think you're going to burn out. I don't know. Maybe it's different people. It seems to me that it's inevitable that you're going to burn out if you go at that pace.
It's just that, I think that breakneck mentality can maybe 1%, 0.01% of people can succeed off of that. But I think the majority of people, it's going to just make you very unhappy and very tired.
Yeah.
And probably hurt your personal relationships.
Yeah. There was a period of time, like, so I guess I didn't really explain how I didn't really tell my roundabout.
No, yeah.
Story,
Go ahead. Give me a little bit more.
Yeah. So yeah, as you previously said, like I did 3 schools in 3 semesters, my freshman and sophomore year. Going to one school and starting as a business accounting major, and then realizing that was the most energy draining, life sucking major I could have chosen. But man, money sounded so good coming out of high school. So they really got me with those business schools. Like, oh, it's so practical. Like, you're going to have a job and you're going to make like minimum $60K a year right off the bat. And I'm like, that sounds great. Everybody else is making nothing.
It's tempting.
Yeah. And I liked the concept of business. I still kind of do in some ways, but I realized really quick that wasn't what I wanted to do. Transferred schools, went to a different school and did music business, which was a whole lot of fun. You got like a wide range of kind of project management and managing like bands' budgets, but then also getting into the audio engineering side of things. And you just kind of got a wide plethora of different classes within that major. But that school didn't work out for multiple reasons, and ended up transferring, and then went into marketing and was like, all right, I'm a sophomore. Even if I don't necessarily love this major, like, I'm going to make it work, and I'm going to graduate like with this as my major. And that's what I did. Definitely there was some classes in there like advertising, and some of the more creative classes that I got to do that I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then there's definitely like, the other side of marketing where you had to take accounting and all those types of stuff. And you're just like, oh my gosh, can I change majors still? No, I don't want to go to school for another 2 years on top of this. So let's stick it out. Because as obviously it's true with the job I have now, your major does not dictate what job you're going to have afterwards.
Not at all.
And I thought marketing was broad enough to where it would, you can use it in everything, which has proven to be fairly true. Like a lot of the concepts I've been able to transfer into some of my projects and tasks with my job now. But after that, went out into the world trying to play professional soccer for a short amount of time, and realized, playing soccer every day is not fulfilling, and I do not.
Makes your body slowly fall apart.
Yeah, and especially as a goalkeeper, throwing your body onto the ground consistently,
day in, day out for months on end.
I realized that I don't know if my body was made for that. I think it was made for that for a short amount of time, and I definitely used that amount of time, and it was donezo. But then I got an opportunity to be involved at a residency program at a church in Indianapolis, and came up here and did that. And then after a year's worth, it's a 2-year program where essentially people that don't know what a residency is, because a lot of people are like, is that like you live at the church, or is that like an internship? And it's like, essentially, I think the best way to describe it is you have the responsibilities of full-time staff, but the grace of an intern. And you also are paired with like a mentor in your craft or field. And I did not like apply to be in video. I just applied to be in the creative realm. Right. I knew I wanted to do something where I create, and got put in the video department, in the communications department. And I mean, it was purely happenstance. I knew I liked video, so I was like, if they would have told me, like weekend services, like audio production, like I probably would have been equally stoked at the time, because I was like, I just knew I wanted to do something creative.
Right.
I wasn't like, oh, I have to get into video. But then I started doing it, and like a lot of the stuff that you and I used to do, like started coming back up, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is pretty sweet. I was like, okay, I'm starting to like get this. And also I was also kind of like, dang, I really wish I went to film school, because there's like a lot of stuff that I had to learn.
I don't know. As quick tangent off of that, because Bruce, one of my guys at work, also didn't go to film school. He was just a creative arts major, or a generic version of whatever. And so he's always like, man, I don't know all these film school things. But I feel like the majority of what you learn in film school, probably all of what you learn in film school, you can learn on YouTube now. But also a lot of it, you just learn lingo and set etiquette, and the rest of it, like the visual aesthetics and the editing and stuff, is almost faster to just learn online now.
Yeah.
Like my editing class, I had already far exceeded what I learned in my editing class just in fooling around making videos with my dorm mates on the weekends than what I learned, other than like the names of things. But I knew all the concepts and was already using them because I had already been watching so many things. So I think there is something to just being a student of absorbing the things around you and learning from those. Also, I wasn't very good at college towards the end there, so maybe I'm not the best provider for education.
Well, I mean, so I've really, like, after being a year into the program, got hired. It's like a 2-year program, so I was lucky enough to. There was a position that opened up, and they thought that they had invested enough time in me. Might as well just ride that train to the end of the tracks, because they had already invested a year in me. So, but my learning was literally just hands-on from day one, which I think is. I mean, if you want to learn video quickly, I mean, like you just said, it's like, I think that's the only way to do it, because I don't think there's any other way that I would know. Not saying that I know a ton, but knowing enough to what I can do now. If I would have been in school, there's no way I would have done as many projects and edited nearly as many hours as I have this past year, because it's just, if you do hands-on, you're just going to learn so much faster.
Yeah. And I think there's probably some film schools out there that force you to be on set more than mine. I think mine was majoritively self-driven.
Yeah.
As far as like how much you have to be involved in things. So I got a lot out of it, but I also wish I would have gotten a lot more out of it because I was very introverted in college, more so than I was post-college. And so I probably didn't go on set as much as I could. And like I got in with this crew of people that made really cool stuff, but I stopped going on set with them because I wanted to like make dumb YouTube videos with my friends with the weekends, which has served me well too, but they also made some really cool stuff towards the end of school that I probably could have been involved in if I would have had a little bit more gusto. So I think it's a lot more about being hands-on and be willing to just say, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could probably argue quality over quantity in my explanation for learning quickly. Like, yeah, maybe they're not doing as many videos as I've done, but maybe they're learning how to do better videos. But
yeah, somewhat.
yeah, but I mean, I think that's where kind of like mentoring comes in and finding people that do make really good videos. And so that's kind of what was nice about my setup was that they pair you with like a mentor, and my boss here is just learned the same way I did. He actually was like a engineering major before he went to seminary, and just learned hands-on, like got into video, like when the video trend started becoming more commercially available to the public, and like just literally taught himself, and then would find people that, you know, knew more than he did and would follow them for a little bit, then follow somebody else. And so just kind of has all this knowledge from a bunch of different people. And so I think finding somebody who can just literally, you can just ask like 500 questions to day in, day out, and just learn a bunch of stuff is, I mean, that is key. That's
big.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, even if you don't have that person physically with you, you can find those communities via other means, whether that's a Vimeo like group or a YouTube channel that makes content that you like. There's a lot of guys out there who make good tutorial content. The problem is a lot of them end up turning into vloggers after they get popular a year later now. And then,
they taste them.
But there's a breadth of information out there that you can at least get started with. At the very least, it can get you rolling. And cameras have become so much cheaper now. You can get a decent camera. Or really, honestly, you could probably make majority of what you want to make on your phone. Buy a moment lens for $80 and go to town.
Yeah, I always think it's funny when people who like, I guess maybe funny isn't the right word, but you know, people are like, "Oh, what do you edit on? What do you edit on?" Like, and I know what they're looking to make. Yeah. And I'm like, just use iMovie, and they're like, "No, like I want to." Like,
I want to learn.
Yeah, like I want to make it on like something legit, and I'm like, you can. I know what you're trying to make, and you can literally just cut it up in iMovie. What you need to do is,
and there's no reason for you to spend this kind of money right now.
No, and I don't know. It's a little bit of a tangent, but yeah, I think it's funny when people they think that the program is what's gonna make it.
Yeah, well, I think that's the downside of one down thing of YouTube is it's like top 5 things you need to create for, you know, top 5 tools for creating YouTube videos or top 5 tools for creating like wedding videos. And you can get really caught up in the gear culture. Yeah. But you run into a lot of guys once you're out there freelancing who have the most baller gear and none of the practice or none of the talent because they didn't put in the work.
Yeah.
And they didn't learn. I think, which back in his heyday when Casey Neistat was more Casey Neistat in the first year, he always was like, dude, I shot on a 480p handheld camcorder for my HBO show. Like, you don't need, you can make anything you want with anything you already have, and it'll force you to be creative, and you'll probably learn more that way than going and buying a $3,000 DSLR that you don't know how to use.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Casey's stuff is engaging maybe, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't watched
less so engaging now, but
yeah,
but it was engaging. I mean, you got to credit him for basically his first year of content was pretty revolutionary as far as like taking something that would have been an MTV show and putting it on YouTube.
Yeah. And I've realized, and you do watch, you watch the Vimeo videos where, you're just like, oh, like I want to learn how they did that effect, or I want to see that style, put into practice. But the ones that you remember and the ones that you go back to watch are the ones that just have a good story.
Well, and I remember
and
when
good
I
content.
was like 16 and making videos and like constantly trolling around the deepest, darkest corners of Vimeo, it would always piss me off when guys would make something really cool and not put they didn't put their camera body in the lenses that they used. How am I supposed to know how to make this? And like, so I've been there. I understand that it's annoying and it sounds preachy and dumb, but it really does. Like, some of the best stuff I've ever shot was on a 7D that I had in college that wasn't full frame. It was 720p. It was, nothing crazy, but I still have some of those shots in my legacy reel because they turned out so good, because I used that camera so much that I got so comfortable with it that I could get exactly what I wanted out of it every time I used it. So it wasn't so much about having, and you're not going to get the depth of field on a phone or whatever, but like there's stuff you can do to get what you want with what you have. And in some ways, I think it's going to make you a better, at least at cinematography at the very least. And hopefully maybe even with storytelling, it'll force you to get creative.
Yeah.
Because you'll know what you want to achieve instead of trying to achieve what your camera thinks you should achieve.
Yeah.
Because of all the YouTube compilations you've seen of it, you're like, oh man, this A7 reel is amazing. I need to shoot all this stuff. Yeah. But you're not shooting what you want to shoot and what you have in your head. You're shooting what you've seen that camera's supposed to do everywhere else.
Yeah.
Which I'm guilty of that too. I mean, like I made a lot of Terrence Malick looking stuff back in my day because I watched all the Terrence Malick backlog and constantly for 1 year, and then all my stuff got really fluid and airy for a while.
Yeah. I need everything to be handheld and wide. Everything.
Well, and I remember in film school, like the things that I hated the most that I made were the stuff I got the most praise for from my professors. Like I made a documentary for my documentary class that was super slapped together. Like I felt like it was a load of crap, but I spent a good amount of time on it, editing it, and I felt like it had a story, but I just despised the visuals. I was like, man, I did a bad job on this. Like, not great. I'm going to get a really bad grade on this. And my professor ended up using it as an example of like, he's like, guys, this is what I want from you. I don't care. Like some guy submitted this beautiful documentary that was just floof and meant nothing. And he was like, this is what I want. And that was a turning point where I was like, oh, it doesn't matter if every single thing is the most beautiful thing I've ever made. It matters what the heart behind the creation is. And that's why people like old Casey Neistat. It's not the prettiest thing, but it's functional for what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
And, if you're making a Hollywood movie, you should make it look good. Like, obviously, if you got the budget and you got the time to plan it. But also sometimes Hollywood movie level production of, oh, man, this looks like Swiss Army Man, or, oh, man, this looks like Spike Jonze or whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean it's good. It means it might be good cinematography. It doesn't mean it's a good video or a good film.
Yeah. And the one that the audience is going to remember is the one that's has a good story.
I mean, I've seen lots of movies that look pretty, but I don't remember them anymore because they weren't.
You don't want to go back and watch those. Yeah. I mean, maybe to pick up a scene and try to mimic a technique that was used, but not because you want to mimic the story.
And you need those foundations of, you need basic visual aesthetics, you need basic audio design and stuff too. Which really you need audio design more than you need anything. Because audio is so important, and a lot of people put it on the back burner.
Oh yeah, but I think I did like an online class. So have you ever done MZ?
I've seen it. I've never taken one before.
Yeah, that was actually a really good investment that the church invested in me because of my lack of experience.
No, dude. I mean, I get it. I did that for Resolve when I wanted to learn Resolve. I went out and found a course online.
Yeah. So they got me an MZ subscription, and there's so many good courses on there. But one of them was and it was like a over 24 hours worth of content audio course. And I mean, just right off the bat, I'm like, oh, wow, audio is the most important aspect of video.
People will forgive bad visuals long before they'll forgive bad audio.
Yeah. Also, another course on there that was really good was Alex Buono. He's the director of photography for Saturday Night Live, but he has his second.
I've seen short cuts of that. I've never seen the full one, but I've seen little pieces.
Yeah, his second second seminar. He has 2 series on there, but his second one is especially good. He goes into like the technical side, but he also goes into more film theory and
Yeah.
even down to like color grading and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really side with his views and his theories on, you know, why to do things. And he's shot everything from, you know, each week he has to mimic somebody's style.
Yep.
But also like he's shot documentaries where he's traveled across the country with literally just him, like a Chinese lantern and like a boom mic. So he was like operating all 3 to shoot this documentary with one of his friends. And it's like an awesome documentary. So it's like, I mean, he understands that it's whatever the point is of what you're making is what your cinematography is based upon.
Yep, exactly. It's not, I mean, and mimicking in itself can be a great way to learn. I think a lot of people are scared to mimic because they want to be, you know, called out as copycats. But to get all stereotypical and take some concepts from Steele like an artist, like everybody else and their brother. But I mean, I think that point rings true where it's like you have to imitate those that you respect to learn where you lie in that spectrum.
Yeah.
So we used to learn that in web design all the time in high school. It was like, you like that website? Cool. Go make that website. And by the time you're done making it, it won't be that website anymore. And you'll have customized it to be your thing. But like copy that website, like look at its source code, break it down, rehand code it yourself. And by the time you get to the end, I guarantee you'll have come up with your own original idea on it. And I think that's true for videos too.
Yeah. It's like,
especially when you're learning.
Yeah. Yeah. To have to go through the process and do that yourself.
Yeah.
And, I can't remember.
That's something I wish I would have done more in high school when we were making videos, is try to do like, oh, let's like those kids that remade Indiana Jones shot for shot for, you know, 20 years or whatever. There's a documentary about that. I've never seen it. I know it's a thing though. I'm talking out my butt right now, but, you know, mimicking movies that I liked more, I think I probably would have had a better grasp of visual aesthetics when I landed in film school if I would have mimicked more and tried not to just like make highlight reels for Vimeo.
That's like so typical, like cinematographer. Yeah, I've never seen it, but I know the concept, and it was good. I like it.
Okay, mild pivot because we got down a rabbit hole, but so music has always been a side passion of yours on and off for a long time. How do you feel like having a side art helps you balance and does it help you stay creative? Does it just help you decompress? Do you wish you could do both with equal fervor? What are your thoughts on that and the other like little side inspirations that you have?
Yeah, so ever since I have moved to Indianapolis a year ago, I started off with like 4 jobs, kind of as a necessity just to, you know, eat and, you know, put gas in the car. But I also realized that like that was kind of my sweet spot is, you know, doing lots of different things. And I think having those side projects, I don't know if I think it's kind of a combination. You asked if it was to decompress or I wish I could do all of them equally. I definitely want to have like a main one that I'm working on to be growing in the most. But having those other projects, I mean, that just after doing those and after taking a break from whatever main project you're working on, I just feel like I come back with a lot more energy and a lot more focus. There's a period of time when, like earlier this year, I guess last year now, 2018, where I only had like a little bit of time on the side and I was pretty much just grinding like day in, day out, just video. And, you know, people around me noticed before I did, but they're like, you're like stressed out and like you don't seem like you're really enjoying yourself so much. And I didn't really think anything of it at first because I'm not really the type of person to be super introspective and be like, oh, like, why am I feeling this way? I was like, just put your head down type thing and keep doing it. But looking back on it now and kind of having a little bit of time off to assess when I feel energized and when I feel more creative.
Yeah.
It's definitely having a wide range of things to pour into, and being able to grow in different areas, because just doing the one thing day in, day out, I definitely need to find rest in some other avenue, not necessarily just being stagnant, but
I'm definitely guilty of that too. I noticed that in myself a lot, and that's been one of my challenges for myself for 2019 is like I noticed myself getting more and more cynical or just formulaic in how I did things, because I don't think I was giving myself enough other outlets on the side. Like I play video games with my friends, or I like hang out and watch TV with my wife, but I don't do anything that requires me to use my hands or use my head in a different way than I do at work as a hobby at home. And so that's been my challenge to myself this year, is to try to do that. And I think I got caught in the trap of getting frustrated for feeling mediocre at something instead of being excited at being mediocre at something, like I used to be when I made dumb videos for my youth group in high school. It was like, oh man, we don't know how to do this. We got to figure it out. Oh man, it looks really bad. Okay, we got to try it again, and we got to figure it out. And I think I got stuck in the cult of needing to be excellent at everything instead of embracing being kind of crappy at something and having to learn. So that's kind of been my little challenge dig to myself. Is like, all right, gotta do some stuff that you're not that great at. Like this podcast is not going to be that great for the first one, but I've started and stopped a million podcast ideas, or like a million little side projects. And I mean, not a million, but probably at least like 5 or 6 in the last couple of years that if I would have stuck with, I probably would have gotten a lot of enjoyment out of. But I was like, oh, it's not as good as the ones that I listen to, or it's not as good as the guys I see on Instagram. So I'm going to leave it alone. So I think it is healthy to make time for other pursuits that aren't your main gig. So that's my goal, which right now is starting with painting D&D miniatures. But you know what?
Yeah, but
it could be anything.
It's stuff like that where it's like, so on Saturdays right now, I just took the full-time job, like I guess 2 months ago now. And like one of the things I wanted to make sure that I had was like Saturdays at the coffee shop here. Because first of all, like, I mean, a lot of my friends are there, but also, even just, making drinks, talking to people in that setting, washing dishes for, 2 hours or something like that is, just a change of pace. That's just, like you said, like painting miniatures, like that's just feels so good.
It's relaxing. You do kick it for a couple hours and like just decompress, even if it's something that you're still quote unquote working on.
Yeah. Like my level of stress, if I worked that job 5 hours, then all of those things wouldn't feel the same way that they do, because I only work it 1 day a week. So I understand that, but those moments are just, they're really precious. So a 6 out of 7 day work week is like, it's more just like a 5 out of 7. And then I get to hang out with people and make good drinks on a Saturday and get paid for it, which is sweet.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I get that. That's why my goal for the year was, I was like, all right, you're sitting down. It's 2019. You're going to pick up at least one hobby that's not digital. So right now it's D&D miniatures, and I'm taking an online drawing class, which I did get frustrated with because I used to be good at it when I was 16, and then I just never did it anymore. And I was like, man, dude, you suck. And didn't keep doing it, but I got to keep going on that. And then I was like, all right, you might not be good at podcasting, but you always talk with your friends at work about a million different podcast ideas. So you have to make 10 episodes of one podcast just as an exercise, if nothing else. So we'll see how it goes. But you got to give yourself little challenges.
Yeah. I just started origami and calligraphy.
I saw that on Caroline's Instagram.
Yeah. I made a pretty sick one tonight. I'll show you later.
Yeah. I was like, Annie, see, Kobe's doing dorky hobbies now too. It's not just me.
Yeah. The calligraphy is pretty fun too, but man, I'm real bad at that. I'll say that.
Dude, it's frustrating. Like, I don't know. I had the handcraft, like painting and drawing bug so hard in high school, and then I just put it down for 8-10 years, and then now it's like, well, wow,
Yeah.
I'm bad. It's not something that necessarily raw. It's not a raw talent that sticks with you. It's not 100% like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Maybe for some people it is, but for me, it's not.
I was always bad at drawing, so I can't say if that's true.
Okay. Well, where are we at on the time?
Do you think we have a good amount of content?
Yeah, we're about 40 minutes. Do you have anything you would like to say as a word of advice or word of encouragement for people that are either trying to work in the arts or work in the arts and maybe are feeling a little burnout, or those people that are maybe caught comparing themselves to all their friends on the coasts and feeling discontent in the Midwest, Southwest world?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm still trying to balance it myself. So,
Yeah,
I would
it's a
say
day-to-day thing.
it's definitely a day-to-day thing. I think you don't compare. I think you just try. You definitely don't want to cut yourself off from seeing other people's content, because seeing other people's content is what gives you good ideas and what drives you to do more and to push yourself. But comparing is where you're going to kill yourself. If you're constantly comparing yourself to people with more experience or people just with a different style that you envy. Like, I think you have to find the balance between comparing and learning from, or comparing and finding some kind of drive from.
Yep, I agree. Don't let all those Instagrammers and YouTubers out there make you feel like you suck.
Yeah.
Even if you do suck, it's okay to suck.
It's okay
You'll
to
get better.
It's okay to suck. Yeah, because you'll definitely get better.
All right. Where can the people find you on the interwebs, which is very difficult to do because you are a monk.
Oh, that's extremely difficult to do.
You're an internet monk. Or if you want people to look something up, do you want them to look up your other podcasts?
Yeah. Oh, awesome. If anybody's listening to this, I have no idea.
Yeah. Hi, Mom. Because I'll probably post this on Twitter, so my mom will be listening to it, and that's it.
Yeah. So whoever follows Seth on Twitter that's listening to this, listen to a podcast. It's on Spotify. It's also on, what is it called? Apple Music now? See, this is how you know I'm a hermit. I just asked that question.
This is not going well. You got to work on your plug. Apple Podcasts, Google Play.
I don't run this podcast, so don't.
It's probably where you download your podcast if you search for it.
Yeah. So it's called 5 Minutes Too Long. It's all spelled out, I believe, except for maybe the 5's not, but 5 Minutes Too Long. So it's a podcast. The concept behind it, I'll give it a quick plug, is me and two other friends, Jim and Joe. We get on the mic and we have a random assortment of subjects in a Ziploc bag, and we reach into the bag, pull out a subject, turn the mic on, and talk about it for 5 minutes. So it's, I think one of the descriptions is, it's not a very good podcast. You probably won't enjoy it, but here it is. So it's only 5 minutes. So you're really not wasting that much time.
It's bite-sized.
It's bite-sized.
Everybody's
stuff.
got 5 minutes.
The idea behind it.
It's very improv culture. It's very yes and.
Yeah, we knew that there's 1,000 60-minute podcasts out there with 5 minute
like this
intros.
One.
Exactly. So we were like, we want to do a podcast where people can literally just turn it on and listen to it in the length of like a song. So,
all right. So the name of that again?
5 Minutes Too Long.
All right. Look up 5 Minutes Too Long. Thanks for listening, everyone. And Cobi, thanks for being my guinea pig.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening this week. Thanks again to Cobi for being my guinea pig on this one. And go ahead and give him a follow around the web. He doesn't really have a lot of places to find him, but you can look him up on Instagram and see his account that his girlfriend manages. And if you want to follow me on socials, my Twitter is @SethPipe. And tune in next week. I will be talking to my friend Jake Lurvey, who is a AC freelancer in Oklahoma, and we talk a lot about how the film industry outside of New York and Hollywood operates. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again soon.